Hey everybody, it's Batman, and we're going to be doing another reaction video today for Naruto. And as always, guys, you guys know the vibes. I do have Mr. Ken Rock with me today. He'll be joining me along with this reaction. So you guys know the vibes. Make sure to check out his YouTube and give him all the support and love if you fuck with his content and stuff, you name it. And let's get into the video. We're going to be checking out Mr. Thundergod, and it's What If DOSU versus the tuning exams. It's actually a really cool topic. Eventually I'm going to do my own topics, with the Sound Ninja against certain people in part 1. So on and so forth. But this is actually a pretty cool topic to think about. So it's he's doing it's either DOSU by himself against everyone or it's his squad. It's one of the two. We'll see.
I hope does Doku kind of sucks.
Yeah. But yeah, that's what he's kind of doing. So it's really interesting. Overall, from my memory, just going off my memory, right? Because obviously, if I do my homework, things could potentially change. Whatever when I review everything. But from my memory, DOSU was strong. But he wasn't like insane or anything like that, right? Like he wasn't.
Wait, which one's Dosu again?
Dosu is the guy that has like the weird arm. He looks like a mummy in a way too, and he does like sound attacks and shit. He's the one that fought Ali, and he got shitted on by First Gate Weighted Lee.
Yeah, so he's the one with the holes in his hand, not the one that has the full mask that Gara. Right?
No. That Zaku is the one with.
Or is he the one that Gara killed?
Yeah, he's the one Gara kills. Yes.
Okay, I was thinking of the other guy.
Yeah. So
I didn't know he was the guy that Gara kills.
Dosu's best scaling. Before we start this video, guys, so you guess what you guys kind of have like a ballpark where I'm at. Maybe Ken might be different, or you're on the same. We'll see. But basically, Dosu's best scaling is being on the same level as Weighted Lee. And because like they have an interaction and they're basically equal to each other, like they're neither or is above who, and they're like filling each other out, whatever. And then Lee basically has to use the first gate, and then he immediately is able to speed blitz and shit on Dosu. So that's kind of like how it basically goes. So the fact that he could at least scale to Weighted Lee, that would be blatantly above Sasuke, obviously, during that time, above Naruto, even Full Power as well, because they were nowhere near even Weighted Lee. They were really fucking ass in tuning exams. So he'd be above those people, even Kiba as well. Kiba's fucking dog water. He'd be above Shikamaru. So he'd be above a good amount of fucking people. But when it comes to like Lee and Neji, Gara obviously as well, he's getting fucking shitted on. Better yet, Tamari would also shit on him because of her wind style. She's Weighted Lee level as well. And then Tenten, she's Weighted Lee level as well. So like Tenten, that would actually be an interesting match. Tenten versus him. That's actually really interesting.
I think Sakura wipes him.
Yeah. But yeah, so basically for the most part, he'll beat everybody except for the people that are on Weighted Lee's level. That's where it gets interesting. Obviously, anyone that's above Weighted Lee, then he gets slammed, right? It's pretty straightforward. That's at least for me, from my memory. I'm pretty sure if I did my homework, it would still remain the same scaling logic, whatever. But that's kind of how like I take this. What about you, Ken? Do you have anything to add, or?
I have him actually probably around.
Say that again. I couldn't hear you.
I'd have him around like Shikamaru's level, in my opinion.
Shikamaru's level? So that's the problem. We don't even really know where Shikamaru's level was until like the final tuning exams, But like early like preliminary tuning exams, like kind of hard to gauge where he's at, to be honest. But like we do know like Shikamaru's shadow possession was able to speed blitz Dosu, which that was pretty impressive, and things like that. Like now, to be fair, you could say that it was like an off guard moment, maybe, but I don't know. Like he just gets caught in that shit, But what's it called? But it's like that's basically it. Like that's like Shikamaru's best thing that he really does is like his shadow possession against Dosu. But that's kind of what you have. But like when it comes to like Shikamaru's body speed, it's kind of hard to gauge where he's at because like he fights against that Kin girl. And they're like in a similar level, but then he just like outsmarts her and then grabs her with like the shadow possession. So like I do see, yeah, that would actually further support that of Dosu more likely being caught off guard because Dosu should at least like I would say he would be stronger than her. You know what I mean? So
I don't think he's physically strong. I think he has a better tactical mind than her, and I think he has better jutsu than her. But I don't think his physical stats are
Gotcha. Because like you would that whole team like because yeah, Zaku and Kin. Like Kin, she like gets behind Sakura. She like grabs her hair. Then Sakura like fucking like does things like basically they're all relative to a certain regard because like they're dealing with all Sakura's traps too and whatnot. But like Kin does that whatever. Then Zaku tries to fight Sakura and he's like over here scaling to a part one Sakura for some weird reason.
A fatigue.
Yeah, exactly. Like Zaku's really fucking ass. He is really fucking ass. But
see, I thought we were talking about him at first. Why I said he loses to everyone.
No, yeah. What's it called? But yeah, Kin, like, she's interesting because like, she has a pretty good fight with Shikamaru, and then she does get behind Sakura. Like, she kind of pulls like a speed blitz moment and just grabs her hair out of nowhere. Like,
Kin's worst thing going for her is she's very cocky.
Yeah. And then like when Sakura cuts her hair, like she then backs up, and then like she doesn't speed blitz Sakura again. So I don't know, maybe Kin is on the same level too, like Sakura level, which is again that's not good. Okay, so I don't know.
It's fine, just
like it's interesting. That's kind of what you're working with basically. You kind of have that whatever. As for DOSU, again, he was over here fighting on par with Wade Lee. And that is impressive at that point in time, because Wade Lee was no joke, So, but that's basically what I'm getting at.
I'm trying to remember how far into the fight that was. Because if it was right after he got done fighting the other person, or anything like that, then I don't think it's as impressive. But if it's before,
it's before. It's in the beginning of the fight. Because the way it starts is Wade Lee comes, he speed blitzes all three of the Sound Ninja before they kill Sakura. He speed blitzes them all and hits them. They fly back or whatever and like, huh? And then Dozu's like, okay, you're pretty good. Let's see what you got. And they charge. They start feeling each other out and shit. He tears up a tree under the ground and uses it to block against Dozu's sound attack and shit. And then
I think he was fighting all four of them though at that point.
No. He was just fighting. Fighting Dozu. Yeah, it was just a 1v1 the whole exchange. Now when he speed blitzes Dozu with the first gate and is about to kill Dozu, then they do help out. Like Zaku does, he does like an air current under the ground to soften the blow. And then Dozu's like, hey, that's a really scary ass technique. That shit still fucked me up, but at least I'm alive.
Wait, what?
So,
wait, did he not? Hold on, you continue with that. I gotta go look because I thought he hit the other person with the Lotus.
No, it's only Dozu. Because once he gets affected by Dozu, after using the Lotus. He can't move or whatever. He's like, oh, fuck the effects. And then Dozu's able to speed blitz him because he can't move. And he gets hit by the sound shit. And then now Lee's like all fucked up.
No, you're right.
So, but... Alright, let's get in the video.
What's going on, guys? TG or Thundergod here. Back with a pretty interesting video. I was doing a bit of a Naruto reread. It was slipping through the cracks a little bit. I felt it. I felt the force leaving me. And
what the fuck?
Came across Dosu as I was reading it. I was just so enamored by the character. I thought he was really cool. Had a lot of great, statements.
He's like a low-key copying Kakashi's look. You fucking...
And I think it would have been really interesting to see how he fared against the Konoha 12 and the Sand Ninja if they...
Yeah, they don't really have a...
So there's going to be a Dosu...
Sorry, they don't really have a fight from what I just saw. Unless the manga's different, but he rushes at Lee. Lee blocks him with the tree, then he immediately uses.
Yeah, basically. In the anime, I think it goes exactly the same. I could be wrong on that. Don't quote me, guys. Maybe there could be additional feats or whatever, because I know the anime likes to do that. But I think the anime goes exactly the same as well. So.
I mean, if that's the case, I don't know if you can give him scaling.
Well, I would definitely say he's either equal or at least bare minimum relative, because if he wasn't Wade Lee's level, Lee would have been blitzing him exactly how he was doing to Sasuke the entire time. But
okay, yeah, you're right.
Because Wade Lee was just blitzing the fuck out of Naruto and Sasuke the whole time. Like they couldn't do anything.
He does kind of speed blitz him with the tree though.
What's that?
He does kind of speed blitz him by ripping up the tree out. I don't know. I guess it really all depends on how you look at it.
I get what you're saying. Yeah, I feel like the fact that Lee's more going on a defense instead of an offense, which he normally does, that would to me would imply they're in a similar level, either relative or equal. I would say, what's it like?
He was protecting Sakura.
Yeah, no, there's that too. Yeah, and then like at the end of the day, there is a statement after the entire fight to where Tenzin says Lee could have easily beat these guys. Like, what the fuck was he doing? Like, he was distracted with Sakura and like having to protect or whatever. It's like she's basically like she was trying to imply like he was like kind of like mentally handicapped in a sense. But
he was
yeah, exactly. You know, so like but overall, like just from the initial encounter, what we see, I feel like it should be enough to at least put him in that similar ballpark. Again, it's either equal or relative, whatever. I'd say probably relative because I do agree with what you're saying. The fact that Lee was able to pull a tree out and use that to block, that would take more time to do. You know what I mean? So at least, again, he's relative. Lee would probably be slightly faster, but he's at least relative enough where he has to force him to do defense, whatever. And if the fight continued, he would definitely be beating the fuck out of DOSU probably. Like, DOSU probably wouldn't be... He would lose that, right? But he went first gate because there's 3 of them instead of 1 of them. And, yeah, that's kind of what you were. Like, I don't know, that's just basically... At the end of the day, I'm going to be honest with you, Lee's a fucking idiot. He's not smart. He's not smart. Like, Lee is just such a weird person, bro. Like, all Lee really had to do is just go fucking, you know, all the gates. You know what I mean? Just release all of them and just fucking...
He didn't have to do any of
yeah, or
gates.
not even. He could just take off his fucking weights and just shit on them. That's really all he had to do, too. But he wants to be a fucking weirdo and just try to win with weights, you know?
He was just trying to show off.
Exactly. So, yeah, that's all I'm getting at. You know, while with Sasuke and Naruto, he's just completely shitting on them. Like, he's just blatantly above them. And that's the same Naruto and Sasuke we see into the Forest of Death. The exact same. So.
I'll also talk about them in the next stage of the Chunin exams. But just, you know, to make it spicy. So, like and subscribe if you enjoy this, the channel, Naruto.
All I will say, since TG's also included, I know we're only 37 seconds in, I do apologize, I'm not going to pause unless it's absolutely necessary. The Sand people will fucking slam DOSU. I don't give a fuck. They absolutely slam the fuck out of DOSU.
Okay, we could watch birds together. Let's get into the video. Starting off, I do want to talk about how strong DOSU is for a second, just to kind of establish some base work or like a framework for us to deal with. DOSU is pretty much among one of the hidden gems in the Chunin exams. He's honestly very similar to Shino in this regard. From a lore perspective, DOSU is already coming in as pretty impressive, as from Sasuke's perspective, he's considered among the best of the best in terms of who he could ask to fight. The individuals who make this list are Gaara, Neji, Lee, Naruto, and DOSU himself. This is more than likely off of the lore of beating weighted Lee, who just literally thrashed Sasuke right before they went into the forest. But I still do think it's pretty impressive to be included on this list or like be featured next to these characters. Even before the Forest of Death, DOSU actually has a very impressive feat against the Jonin class fighter in the form of Kabuto. We see this when Kabuto wanted to...
That's not. No. That's Kabuto holding back, bro. Come on. like that's not. It's not. He's not Joning level if that's what we're trying to. But I don't know about that. That feat is to me meaningless because Kabuto is pulling an Itachi. He's not using full power. He's being like a spy, whatever, acting like he's some normal level Genin or some shit, and that's not like. And then look at even Sasuke.
He's just there to keep an eye on Sasuke, isn't he?
What's it called? Yeah, like, even Sasuke, if you look in that panel, he's like, that was quick. I barely saw him move. So even Sasuke is like, what the fuck? That speed is insane.
Provoke DOSU to attack, with DOSU actually being able to tag Kabuto with his sound-based attack after Kabuto dodges his swipe. This attack pretty much making Kabuto like throw up and incapable of moving. Kabuto also noting that he basically overestimated his own defenses here. But the fact that this was effective on Kabuto kind of sets the status quo that this would pretty much be effective on everybody in the Chunin exams. And this is pretty in line with DOSU's fighting style, as we see with weighted Lee. Lee was shown pretty superior to this DOSU. I'm going to talk about, Lee and DOSU and that interaction a little bit more in a second. But DOSU uses his resonating echo drill. That's pretty much the big gauntlet he has on his arm. And what it does, it allows him to damage his opponent via a sound shockwave generated by the device. And those affected are traumatized and lose their sense of balance. So if the fight continues, they can no longer behave well. So essentially, even if DOSU doesn't necessarily tag the opponent or hit them point blank, he can still kind of enact this strategy to the point where then once they're off balance, he could start to go in again and amplify it with his loudspeaker, which is precisely what he does do against Lee. Lee was just blatantly faster than DOSU, but once DOSU was able to kind of throw him off balance, he amplified the sound via his chakra, and it was pretty much downhill from there for Lee. This is making it so DOSU can combat fighters who are faster than himself. And even Sasuke, from the small showing against Kabuto, does know DOSU is pretty fast. So it's not as if he's a slouch in terms of conventional stats by himself. DOSU also displaying the ability to destroy large objects like giant logs casually with his gauntlet. So it does have some destructive capabilities as well. Now DOSU does cap out at Transform Gaara, unfortunately, as that's what ultimately killed him, which I mean isn't a bad thing since semi-transformed Gaara or like fully transformed Gaara is above everybody else anyway. The only people who can combat him are like Chidori Sasuke. We don't see the fight in the original series, but Shippuden actually does animate it with the Shukaku arm and tail variant being what.
And not even Chidori Sasuke, but weightlessly could be able to combat against that Gaara. Fucking Naruto does it as well. Sakura is able to do it. And then fucking obviously Neji, things like that. So those people could also combat against Gaara. It's not just Chidori Sasuke, but yeah.
Takes down DOSU. This is kind of questionable as the manga depicts this very differently. DOSU just gets rushed down and we only see his reaction to whatever form Gaara takes. So you could imply
Shout
that
out to the anime.
Shippuden is just not as credible as the original manga, or it's just a different interpretation of it, or just goes to anime canon. This might also be consistent as in the Shippuden variation, DOSU can like run at comparable speeds to semi-transform Gaara, which obviously just isn't the case in terms of speed, as that Gaara is more of a rival to Chidori Sasuke in terms of speed, who's far above.
Or I would say Gaara is not moving at like full max speed. I mean, like he could do his partial transformation and then just start moving forward. And then and the problem is like then it does a time skip. It's off screen. We don't know what the fuck happens. We just see like a big, like destruction and strike clearly. So meaning Gaara amplified his speed and then he just speed blitzed and killed him. So I think like when Gaara initially moves, he's moving like at a normal pace, like along with DOSU, and then he amplifies it up and then he just speed blitzes him, which is literally what happens. So, that's all I'll say on that. I think that's probably reasonable. And another thing as well, in the forest, Gaara was technically moving even more faster than he normally does because he was also launching himself as a projectile with the trees. He was kind of like a rubber band, basically. He would go all the way back and then bam, going. So he would go like at some crazy fucking speed. So Gaara running on the ground compared to, slingshotting himself, there's that too. So,
look, I refuse to believe that Base Lee is relative to transform Gaara.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
And Base Lee was able to react to DOSU.
Yeah, exactly. So that's what I'm saying. Like, I don't think that's what TG's trying to say here, but I'll hear him out a little bit further because he hasn't finished yet. But all I'm getting at is Wei Lee is not Gaara level. Like Sasuke was almost to weightlessly. He wasn't even there yet. He was relative, but he wasn't even equal to weightlessly. What's it called? And even Sasuke said himself, with just almost to weightlessly speed, like if I didn't have the shotting gun, I would have been dead. Now, to be fair, that was him slingshotting as well. And he had a tail as well. Like this Gaara only has an arm, while in the forest he has a tail and an arm. So there is that too, but that's basically what I'm getting at. So
like weightlessly. So to say that DOSU's on that level, it's just not there. I think the bottom line here, though, is that DOSU was getting cleaved by Transform Gaara, which no one thought otherwise. I just kind of wanted to note these different interpretations as the manga, anime, and Shippuden version of this fight do kind of paint this in a different light. Now, I think what's the most interesting part about DOSU is actually his intellect, because he's actually painted to be extremely intelligent among the Genin. He's very aware of where he is in terms of strength. So I'll give you an example. Curse Mark Sasuke body slam Zaku. And even before Sasuke fights Zaku, DOSU's like, we can't do it. We can't fight this. This dude's chakra, it's visible. We lost. It's over. Like the fact that we can see it, it's over for us. Zaku obviously doesn't listen, ends up getting disarmed.
Oh, brother, this guy stinks!
But I actually find it fascinating that DOSU was essentially able to ascertain the reason Orochimaru even had them in the exam and what the purpose was for them being there. They were pretty much there to test Sasuke. And he realizes this. He realizes this after seeing Sasuke fight. And he actually notes pretty much, he's able to dial
Sasuke
in on
would have got
Orochimaru's
fucking cooked if he fought DOSU. He would have got fucking cooked. Especially that Sasuke who's even more nerfed and can't even use chakra to amp his body or the Sharingan or ninjutsu. He's just like some weak fucking, like, oh my god, he would have got fucking cooked, bro. That's like a million times worse.
Ambitions during the Chunin exams, and actually notes how he blatantly won't be a pawn in them. He doesn't want to just be like Zaku and Kin and just be like a one-off. No, he actually is kind of aware of what's going on, his place in the Chunin exams, why Orochimaru's kind of doing this. And you even see this when he attempts to pull up on Gaara while Gaara was like, he pretty much thought Gaara was going to be sleeping and tried to pretty much take him out so he could have Sasuke to himself in the next round of the Chunin exams. Obviously, Gaara wasn't sleeping because Shikaku's like, it's free real estate if he goes to bed. But again, we have some pretty good analysis on his part because he knows. He pretty much analyzed Gaara's sand attacks. He's like, I wonder what's faster, my sound or your sand. And he's saying this after seeing 5th Gate Lee and Gaara go at it. So it's like, okay, I'm not saying Dosu's 5th Gate Lee level because that would be illogical. Of course he's not. But I think it is telling that with a little bit of intel, he thought he could probably catch Gaara lacking after seeing his performance in the Chunin exam. So, again, just pretty good intelligence stuff. You could also look at his fight with Choji.
I'll be honest, I think Dosu's just fucking delusional. If he saw 5th Gate against Gaara and that motherfucker really thought he had a chance, he's on crack.
Well, I was literally about to say that. Like, there's no way, if he thinks that, then he's just crazy. Like, just because you can look at one opponent and be like, oh yeah, I'm too weak for this person, doesn't mean you are a good judge of, like,
yeah, like, that motherfucker's on that good, you know? Like, I don't... yeah.
And it just
like, bro, like, weightless Lee was above the sand. Weightless. Like...
instantly figures out a countermeasure to Choji's human boulder. So he's a pretty...
And not even. I'm on that too. And then Sasuke, who's relative to weightless Lee, he was also beating the fuck out of Gaara. And that's technically a stronger Gaara too. You know, like... not by an insane margin, but, you know, obviously in comparison to before, everybody gets stronger to some regard, right? So, like, overall, like, if you're relative to weightless Lee or have weightless Lee speed, that is, like, some next level, insane level of speed, right? You know, like, he was blowing the fuck out of Gaara.
On top of all this, and not even just in terms of combat, but in also just general intelligence. He's able to kind of see past the deception and what Orochimaru's plans are. So he was taken from us a little early. It's unfortunate, but in terms of conventional stats, it's definitely harder to say. I wouldn't say he's at like the top of the Chunin exams level, like the Nejis or the, you know, gated Lee or anything like that. But
I'm not gonna lie.
At least come back.
If you're working for Orochimaru and you don't know you're being used, that's not a matter of you being smart. That's just a matter of you being stupid.
That weighted Lee, I think, speaks volumes because, again, like, weighted Lee is enough for most fighters in the Chunin exam alone. As Sharingan Sasuke and Naruto got bodied by this Lee. And both
okay, TG, so you're doing your homework. Okay. Most people don't like doing homework. Okay, at least he knows that too. All right. We're getting somewhere.
I refuse to do homework personally.
Heavily nerfed Naruto with the Seal Titan and Sasuke with the Curse Mark, which for Naruto pretty much inhibited like his chakra control and pretty much made it garbage.
Yep.
For Sasuke, it made it so he could barely use chakra at all. So I don't think weighted Lee is also insignificant.
I don't think it
So
made
that
it
he's
proper
not performing this.
control
Again,
garbage.
very impressive stuff. So we'll be kind of starting these matchups off.
Yeah, it made it hard for him to basically embed it, to mold his chakra and things like that. Yeah. Like that's what Jiraiya says.
But he already had shit chakra control.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, he said specifically it made his chakra too heavy.
Yeah.
I'll just be.
And it wasn't
this is just
the
straight
seal
up
itself. It was just because it was placed on top of an even.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so it was like his chakra was like erratic and it was hard to mold it and shit like that or whatever you name it. Like it was to the point where when he was practicing chakra control to climb trees, whatever, you know, that takes time, whatever, blah blah. And when he tries to do it in the water, like he just couldn't do it at all to save his fucking life. But then when the moment Jiraiya releases it, now he can do it like immediately, you know. So.
In the preliminaries. I'll retain any intel that he's gotten on any of these fighters that he obtained in the Forest of Death and vice versa, obviously. Let's get into these matchups. Starting off, we have Naruto. Now, I think Naruto has a really tough time.
There's nothing more powerful than you.
I'm not gonna lie,
Making your
TG don't
thing
even have to
happen.
explain Naruto or Sasuke or anything. He could just be like, get slammed. That's it. there's no explanation. like
Really going.
Like in
Against Dosu.
I told you, I'm here to be
right?
petty.
Like all I will say is the way it basically goes is Dosu fucking shits on him and starts beating the fuck out of Naruto. The only way Naruto has any chance is if he goes into the QB. That's the only way. You know, and then there you go. But you know that's it's kind of like unfair. That's QB Naruto to be fair. You know, so if we're talking, but
Really all depends on which version. Like, are we talking like Naruto, like the second part of the exams or the first part?
It's the Naruto during the Forest of Death and just everything, the entire tuning exams. That Naruto is exactly the same the whole fucking time.
I think during the second part he's massively stronger. I'm not even gonna lie, because there's no way you're telling me that even like if Naruto got lucky during the Forest of Death that he's pulling anything like what he did Neji.
Well, no, not the entire tuning exam. I'm talking about the preliminary tuning exams, not final. No.
Okay. Well, that's why I was asking. Like, are we talking about like him like up to part 2? Or are we talking about part 1 of the exam? That's why I was trying to figure out which part of the exam are we talking about.
I would assume this is the tuning. He's talking about the preliminary. He could be potentially including the finals as well. I don't know about TG, but I'm referring to preliminary. But
if we're just talking the preliminary, then yeah, I would give it to him. But I guess continuing, and we'll listen to any like cues to figure out which one he's talking about. But I'll say basically, if we're talking preliminary, it changes who wins. Basically.
Yeah, no, I get you. Yeah, if it's the finals, like fucking, he's at least relative to Sasuke in some regard. Like he's not like leagues below, but he's at least relative, and that's a big deal. It at least helps, right? You know, so at that point, with that and Shadow Clones, you name it, I think Naruto would absolutely beat the dog shit out of DOSU, even in base, and I would agree with that myself. But if it's preliminary, then no, he gets fucking slammed. So, but
Assuming they fight in the
yeah, but to backtrack, when I was talking about the preliminary tuning exam Naruto, the only way he could pull it off is if it was like, you know, if he gets a QB amp, right? And then I could see him doing it. But if it's just base Naruto, he's absolutely slammed, you know. Or a mental amp. If he gets like his fucking weird ass mental amp with like a Ruka or Gaara, then that too, obviously. But
real answer.
Or if he's keep up, he ain't killing.
Draw at this point in this series, he's very susceptible to it. The only way he can really deal with DOSU is keeping him at a distance with large-scale shadow clones, or having DOSU attack shadow clones by mistake, which I do think is a possibility, as Naruto is just pretty much Naruto as a fighter is very quick-witted with the shadow clones. He even pulls the wool over Neji during the tuning exams. He's able to like place a clone, climb underground, and Neji doesn't see through it. Granted, he didn't have his Byakugan active, but still, I think the fact that he also is able to pull this on Kiba is pretty impressive. He also does take a pretty great deal of punishment in that fight, to the point that Kiba, after taking like a military pellet that doubles him and Akamaru's chakra reserves, still isn't able to overwhelm Naruto with Fang over Fang. That is more external though. And
to be fair, Kiba was beating the fuck out of Naruto when he did that though. When he amped himself, he was definitely overwhelming. He was beating the fuck out of him, and then he also hit him with his Fang over Fang, and Naruto was bleeding. He's all fucked up and shit. But then he stands back up after getting roasted by Kiba, and Kiba's like, I'll be the Hokage, whatever. Then he gets mad, and he gets mentally amped, and then he starts to I don't remember the ending, but that's when he overcomes Kiba, though. Yeah, that's what it was. Yeah. Kiba goes to still strike, and he's still getting beat the fuck up. Like, he's barely able to keep up, whatever you name it. He's bleeding, whatever, and then Kiba would have beaten him, but he farted. Yeah, that's what fucking happened. He had to fart the plot.
Naruto used the ancient ninja move of shitting his pants.
That's what it was.
Against this
How do I forget that, bro?
It just kind of depends, because if
Kiba's
DOSU gets overwhelmed with clones,
the only character to get defeated by a fart,
bro. The problem with DOSU from a stat perspective, too, is it's not like he's leagues ahead of this Naruto. Because even though I made that comparison earlier...
Wait. TG's saying he's not leagues ahead of... What?
I think he's talking about the second part of the preliminaries, because he mentioned that the Neji fight.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Okay, if it's the final, then okay, yeah, I would agree. But if it's preliminary, then hell no. Fucking...
Because he was talking about his use of shadow clones against Neji.
And initiate the primary
But TG didn't. He's not really specifying though. He's kind of being vague because he does mention the Neji stuff with shadow clones, but he's not like he never is like saying like what Naruto we're taking into consideration preliminary, final, or it's like or Naruto the strongest. Like I don't know what the fuck he's doing here because he's over here showing the Kiba fight and everything, which that gives a false alarm, like or a different. A take base. Now I'm thinking of preliminary. So I'm like, wait, which Naruto is he fucking referring to? But I don't know.
Almost one-shot DOSU. He actually had the ground softened by Zaku, which DOSU notes. He's like, dude, the ground was like as soft as it could ever be, and that still almost wiped me out. So it's kind of like, okay, he still almost got bodied even with Zaku's support. So to kind of imagine how he'd do without it, the fight would have ended right there. So I'm kind of like flip-flopping on this one. Part of me leans towards DOSU, as he has a very immediate effect on individuals. You might also be able to say Naruto might be somewhat aware of this, as he did witness the Kabuto stuff in the Chunin exam, so he might know not to get near DOSU. I would probably also lean towards DOSU, just due to the fact that in Naruto vs. Kiba did make a lot of smoke due to Fang over Fang, which gave Naruto time to make diversions and kind of substitute out with Akamaru. That's not really going to be present here in this battle. I definitely see DOSU just attempting to dash over at Naruto. And even if Naruto dodges, it's not as if DOSU's immediate effect isn't going to go into play. So I probably do lean towards DOSU.
So here's my problem, because TG didn't really explain that well for me. So if it's finals Chunin exam Naruto wins. Because with the amount of clones, whatever you name it, the sky's the limit. He could set up a lot of opportunities, plans, whatever. And it'd just be too overwhelming for DOSU. I do think he would beat him.
He just drops Yamapunta.
Yeah, right? And especially that, like, if he's, if he tries, like, well, I will say this. If Naruto tries to whip out the QB chakra as well, DOSU's getting fucking slammed, too. You know what I mean? Now, to be fair, it does take him time to initially do it. So there is that as well. Like, he's not able to immediately command the QB chakra on the fly until the Gar fight. So if it's, like, during the final exams, too, there's that into consideration as well. But let's say we take, like, Naruto at his max prime, right? Like, we even eliminate all that bullshit. Then he would be able to summon the QB chakra at any fucking point immediately. And he could summon the frog, or he could just amplify himself and make him be scaled to a fatigue Neji. Which is still very impressive. That's, like, really, really impressive. We don't really know where fatigue Neji scales, if I'm to be honest. But either way, it's at least in some way impressive because they're both pretty fast and capable, whatever. There's at least that emphasis. But bottom line is, that is an immediate win con. But if it's just Naruto and base, I would still be on Naruto because he could just, again, he could spam a shit ton of fucking clones. And it's like, what does DOSU do? Like, what does he do against that, bro? Like, I don't know. That's just me, man. I think Naruto would take it. But if it's preliminary, then DOSU absolutely slams. I think the speed gap and everything is massive, and he would just shit on him. So that's me. But I'm assuming you would agree, Ken, or?
For the most part, I think Naruto could take it if we're talking preliminaries.
Okay. Yeah.
Just because he still has the ability to create all those clones, and TG's talking about how he wouldn't have the opening because there wouldn't be that much smoke. Naruto's really good at making open.
Oh yeah, with his shadow clone and everything, yeah. So
it took Kakashi. Like, Kakashi had to create an opening in order to because he was able to get around Naruto's clones, but he did have to kind of trick them in order to get around.
Yeah. And then not only that, clones make smoke as well when they fade away. So that too. But
it's Naruto in the preliminaries. But again, this is like a heavily nerfed Naruto. Next up, we have Sasuke in the preliminaries. And I think this is the exact same thing, as Sasuke is arguably more nerfed than Naruto.
So he is talking about preliminary Naruto. Okay, so yeah, if it's preliminary Naruto, and especially if it's nerfed Naruto too, obviously DOSU, that's even worse. If it's like full power preliminary Naruto, I would say DOSU still based upon the weighted lead performance, but and that's what you're working with. So yeah, so he's not talking about final exams.
Like, so
I don't know why he talks about Neji.
Yeah, I'm assuming then I was correct before. He was only bringing up the Neji thing because of how he was utilizing the shadow clones, I guess, but
really crippled at this point, but he could still use chakra. He could pretty much, he notes during the fight with Kiba, he's like, oh, even if I put chakra to my legs, it's still taking everything I have to dodge. On top of this, in the Force of Death, he is able to make mass or large scale amounts of shadow clones, so there is a level of that. But Sasuke, on the other hand, can't even use his Sharingan. He can't even use chakra to amplify his stats. He can barely dodge Jiroi's attacks. It's a bad time. So you kind of have to argue that he gets lucky against DOSU and is able to enact the Lion's Barrage, but I think literally if DOSU just gets near him, and you kind of see this with Lee, even if Sasuke like blocks the attack, the immediate effect due to the Echo Drill is just gonna wipe Sasuke.
I do agree. DOSU slams this Sasuke absolutely. If it's the other Sasuke that fought against Lee, again, I would say DOSU does it based upon how he did against Lee, and whatnot. But that's just kind of me. Now, if it's finals exam, then no. Sasuke would be way faster than DOSU, and then obviously Shiroi would fucking shit on him too. So
have the capability to get away from DOSU, or just kind of prevent him from enacting his win con, just due to how weak his body is at this point. I think Naruto has way better of a shot against DOSU in the preliminaries than Sasuke at this point. I think Lion's Barrage has a decent chance to take out DOSU, but again, like, to say it would get to that point, I can't necessarily see it, even if Sasuke has an idea of DOSU's capabilities. Next up, we have Sakura. And I mean,
yeah, and even if he gets DOSU in the air, the other guy was still able to defend himself to some regard. All DOSU has to do is activate sound while they're in the air, and Sasuke's cooked. He's already having to deal with the curse mark, you know, putting him in pain, and then paralyzing him for a moment as well, you know, and things like that. Like, you know, I think DOSU would be just fine in the air. So
let's keep it moving, because, like, you know, let's keep moving. DOSU slams, to be honest.
Wait, who did he say though? Wait, who did he say?
Now,
I didn't even hear what character he just said. Oh, he said Sakura. He's okay.
It's interesting, right? Because he sees Neji's Byakugan, and he's like, bruh, his eyes are penetrating. But right after he sees this, he's like, man, what you talking that hot for on that tree? Like, come down. What's up? So, you know, it is kind of interesting to think about DOSU versus Neji. Now, I'm not going to lie. Neji, from a lore perspective, is just stronger than DOSU. Pretty much every source of Naruto media, this series itself, you know, Rock Lee, the fan books pretty much state that Neji is the strongest Genin post, like, the next round of the Chunin exams. That's when Sasuke and Naruto get a bit stronger, or like touted as the strongest Genin. I would obviously say Gaara might also take that note, but I will say it's also interesting because Conqueror also...
Fun fact: there's a data book that says that all the Jonin and including the Hokage actually deemed Neji the strongest Genin and for the final Chunin exams. Fun fact for that. There's actually it's a misconception. Everybody always jumps the gun and thinks Sasuke, Naruto, whatever, blah, blah. Naruto is completely understandable. If we're giving him all the mental amps and shit, whatever you name it. Or at least QB Chakra. You know, because obviously if he has QB Chakra, he can summon the frog at that point. But other than that, at least for Sasuke or whatever, everybody would normally jump to Sasuke instead and be like, oh, he is because, you know, that one statement of being Gaara's strongest opponent, whatever, blah, blah, yada, yada. And then correlation to Gaara, so on and so forth, right? But as crazy as it is, I don't know why, but all the Jonin and the Hokage did say this. So you can take that however you want, but there is that too. And then again, Neji, at least bare minimum, scales to Gate 3 Lee. You could even say Gate 4 if you want to, but I would say Gate 3 at most. That's all we bare minimum, which is very, very fucking impressive. Because we've seen what Weightless Lee can do. We've seen what First Gate Lee can do, things like that. So that's really fucking impressive. So yeah, there's that too. So I'm going to be honest, fucking DOSU should get slammed by this Neji. That's just me personally, but yeah. Because we literally see DOSU...
To be fair, Shikamaru says Choji's strong.
Yeah, that was in the Retrieve arc, yeah. So, like, at the end of the day, like, fucking... You know, that's just kind of what you're working with, you know. We see DOSU get speed blitzed by the first gate, and Neji's beyond the first gate. So, I think this is pretty clear to me, but...
Pairs Neji directly to Gaara. He's like, oh my god. We got another monster on the battlefield. So
yeah, that is true.
Neji
yeah,
is
Neji was being compared to Gaara the whole time, or like, and even Gaara was like shitting his pants. He was in like that weird state, and Conqueror's like, oh my god, I haven't seen Gaara get like this. Oh my god.
And the fact that he's more comparable to Gated Lee, I think, is all you really need to say when comparing him and DOSU. Now, obviously, DOSU could potentially put some moves on Neji.
What?
But I'm not gonna lie, right? Like, once he gets into the Byakugan's range of, or like field of view, like he enters close quarters, Neji has so many more options. Now, this might be interesting because you could maybe say like Neji doesn't have rotation at this point. This is never proven. We don't know if he has it or not. All we know is that he was practicing it with Tenten and that nobody knew about it. But again, he could have just not revealed it during the prelims as he was holding back. He was sandbagging heavy against Hinata. Like, you know, that fight's shown to be even, and then right after, Negi's just shown to be like a speed tier above her due to like the Tenketsu being blocked on her arm. So
I don't think
like, they're not on the same level. But even if you didn't give him rotation in this case,
I don't even know why this is a discussion right now. Neji should just speed blitz DOSU and just fucking fuck him up. 64 palm, you name it, right? Like, that's just me. I don't think DOSU has any way to force an interaction. I think the speed gap is too big. But that's just me, though.
I'm not going to lie. I don't think he had the rotation just because it was kind of forbidden for him. And if the other members of the clan had found out, he would have got it.
Gotcha. Yeah, like, that's all I'll say. As for the rotation thing, you know, you can argue either or, whatever you name it. But yeah, at this point in time, at least during the preliminaries, there is nothing at all to even suggest that he knows Kaiten, you know, rotation. So, but yeah, or along with Ken saying, maybe he just wasn't even allowed to use it. You know, who knows?
I think honestly he's just gonna run down DOSU before DOSU has any time to react.
I'm about to say. What the fuck is saying?
Block his Tenketsu at 64
Yeah,
pounds.
you were worrying me for a moment, TG. You were having it to where like, oh, Neji's above, and then DOSU should be able to do something, and then now Neji said, okay, good. Let's make it sure.
The end of the fight, as even the same weighted Lee just isn't on Neji's level at this point. He also would probably see the chakra build up in the Echo Drill and figure something's going on. So I don't even think the surprise sound attacks would even be as effective due to the Byakugan's innate penetrating capabilities. So I think Neji just absolutely obliterates. I just don't think DOSU's on Neji's level. Next up, we have Lee. Now, Lee is interesting because we saw this fight, but I mentioned earlier the whole deal with gated Lee, and I actually think Lee does come out with the W due to the reasons I exhibited before. If he initiates the primary
just remember,
lotus, just like
10-10 wins because she's above Hashira.
Yeah, I remember that shit.
on DOSU in the original fight.
Oh, there was a fucking weirdo in
DOSU's
D1 server today that said Shikamaru beats Hashirama during part 1. I'm like, you're on crack.
Oof.
Not gonna get up, and we know Lee is faster. We actually do know from that encounter that he can literally blitz in front of DOSU and drop him on his head before DOSU gets taken out. So the fact that DOSU was almost taken out via this kind of attack in the original fight, and we saw how effective it is all you really need to say. Funny enough, too, Tenten actually states, Tenten's obviously a fallible individual, as we know from the series, but she does say after seeing Zaku's performance, she's like, listen, Lee would have just washed all three of these at the same time had he not been fighting defensively, too. So to say DOSU just without assistance would be able to fight Lee, let alone weightless Lee or gated Lee, it's outside his realm capability. Next up, we have Tenten. Now, Tenten's garbage. I'm not going to lie. It sucks to say because she got, like, off-screened in the manga by Tamari. In the anime, like, Tamari just, she just, like...
How do you get off-screened in a book?
So, it's just... It's tough for Tenten, man. Her stocks are just down.
I will say this. I'm going to give some credit for Tenten. The fact that there's weapons everywhere, that clearly implies there was a fight. And then, two, if we take the anime into consideration, which... anime is canon, whatever you name it. She does have a fight against Tamari, and Tamari was forced to use the third star. So I'm just saying, she was forced to use it, and then Tamari, because of using the third star, which is her most powerful win style at that point, because she even says to Tenten in the beginning, you won't even force me to go up more above the first star, but yet she's forced to go to the third star. So I think there's plenty enough to confirm that Tenten does scale to Tamari. It's just like, unfortunately, Tamari was a hard counter for Tenten. And with that being the case, we do see Tamari fighting against Weighted Lee, and she was at least equal to Weighted Lee. She just blocks his shit, and she's like, I thought you were faster than that, you bitch, whatever. So all I'm basically getting at, if you correspond that with Tenten, you name it the whole nine, basically, with her and DOSU, it would be an interesting fight because the scaling should be there. If you don't think she's equal to DOSU or whatever, or at least relative, it doesn't matter. As long as she's relative, she should still be able to do shit. And basically, it boils down to her spamming weapons at DOSU, and then DOSU using sound, and it just comes to the question like, can DOSU just deflect all her weapons with sound? I would say yes, but then what's tricky is if she attacks like in a 360, what does he do then? He can't do a sound barrier around his entire body. Like, Tamari only survived all the insane amount of attacks from Tenten because of her wind style, the wide radius that it covers. It covered everything. While DOSU can only cover what's in front of him, because he's showing to like blow up that log or whatever you name it, and things like that, destroy things. So like, he could probably block like a front encounter, but not like a all-around encounter where he's getting sent kunais from every fucking direction, So
that's also kind of assuming he can keep the blast going. Most of the times when we see him, he usually does it in quick burst.
Like low-key, people underestimate Tenten, bro. That's all I'm saying, man. Like, that's one thing I'll disagree with TG there. I don't think Tenten's trash or anything. She's not like Sakura, you know what I mean? She's not Sakura. What's it called? She's like the next level up for Sakura, but she has scaling. It's there, So yeah, that'll have to heavily disagree with TG. You know what I mean? But I understand where TG's coming from. Like, it is funny. A lot of 9 out of 10 times people think Tenten's absolutely fodder like some Sakura shit, and I understand. I get it. But when you really analyze her as a whole, the scaling is there. So
Chiefs next Hashirama.
Literally. But yeah, so I would disagree. I think 10-10 actually takes that as a win. That's just me, though. I really do think she... Like, once she starts whipping out her most insane fucking shuriken attacks, because the way I see it is, like, she's gonna, like... Especially if she has intel. But if she has intel and it's in character, whatever, she'll know about his stuff because of what he did to Lee, whatever you name it. So she's gonna keep her distance, fight from a range. The first initial attacks probably won't do shit, but then once she starts doing her insane level attacks that force Tamaru to go to the 3rd star... Then DOSU's cooked. He's not dodging all that. I don't give a fuck.
She's gonna pull that 180 IQ move up, put in earplugs.
Yeah, literally, bro. So like that's kind of what I'm getting at with this. And obviously, if it's bloodlusted, then she just goes immediately to her fucking craziest attack, and he's cooked. Personally, I don't see any way how DOSU could counter that. That's just me.
She just pulls a Konan and just starts throwing like paper bomb kunais at him endlessly.
Really say. Other than you could probably make a decent case, DOSU might be able to repel her ranged attacks with this Sound Gauntlet if he's able to blow an entire log away. Like, she doesn't really have too much, and we actually do know his Sound Gauntlet is durable enough to block Shuriken from when
yeah,
she
but again, that's
Shuriken.
a forward attack. That's not an all-around attack. There's nothing to support.
Those are kunai.
Yeah, exactly, and there's nothing to support that he could do like a wide radius or like a circle around his whole body to protect.
So it's not even his.
I'm just saying, realistically, kunai are not a weapon. They're a tool.
And just emit some sound attacks whenever he gets close. And once he gets close, it's just kind of clip.
They're used for digging.
I don't know if I'm being mean to 10-10. I just don't.
You are, bro.
Like,
you are. Nah, TG, you being me, bro. At least that's what I love about TG. He'll at least be humble enough to where he's like, if he understands it's at least, contentiousness or whatever the case can be, or at least try to give a benefit of the doubt or do devil's advocate if it is there, right? He'll always fucking try. And I'll give that to TG all day, every day. He's not like one of those weirdos in Naruto community scaling, whatever, where it's like, oh, it has to be this. That's the only way, and blah, blah, and all that. Or some outrageous nonsense, right? So, I'll give that to TG all day, every day.
Someone in the comments has, like, a take that I haven't seen before, but... even with the anime Tamaru fight, if I gave you that, like, I don't even think all those weapons just make the difference. I'm not going to lie to you. So
what?
I think DOSU annihilates and Neji Meek laser for free. Choji, we already saw, so I'm going to blatantly skip Choji and move right over to Ino. Now, Ino actually does have a win con. If she can transfer DOSU, I think it would be effective.
So honestly, Ino has the win con, but 10-10 doesn't. That's
she's able to get it off before DOSU can...
Literally, bro, Sakura and Ino are like way below weightedly. Way below, bro. Come on. What's it called? She wouldn't even be fast enough to do anything. She immediately would get blitzed and fucking done. GG. Same with Sakura. That's why you didn't even say anything about Sakura. Like, I'm sorry, I gotta call you out there, TG. How we gonna do Sakura? But like, oh, she's white, right? She's dumb, whatever. And just say nothing, right? Get slammed. But then now it's Ino. Like, she has the same exact scaling as Sakura, bro. Why is this even a conversation?
She has worse scaling than Sakura.
Like, come on. And then we did 10-10 before like that? 10-10's above these two at least? What? Damn.
Quite literally dash at her and just...
You know what I think it is, TG? Because I know he watches my stuff. You know what I think it is? I think you just, you have a, I think you just like Ino. You know what I mean? Like obviously not as, I'm not trying to be weird with it, but I think you just think Ino's built different. Like, you just have some bias for Ino. You know what I mean? Like, how dare you?
All I'm going to say is she refused to go hand to hand with Sakura. She stayed at a distance and tried the mind transfer. So she clearly thinks Sakura's physically a better companion.
Yeah. How dare you, TG, to be so biased and just super, like, in love with the character of Ino and Naruto. How dare you? Nah, I don't know, bro.
Only I'm allowed to do that.
I think that's quite literally it. This fight just goes one way or the other pretty strictly.
What?
The problem with Ino's win
one way or
condition
another
is that her mind transfer can only move
What?
along a direct path. So
is there any,
the reason I
like,
say this,
scaling
right?
I'm missing? Like, wait, like,
For
literally, like, there's no way this goes one way or another, bro.
I never see people bring this up, but the reason it's
that's usually how it goes. Either you win a fight or you lose it.
Because
to get started
Like,
in data
Ino
analytics,
is so
you don't need
slow,
previous
bro, in
experience
comparison
or
to
a degree.
weighted
To
league
Google
fighters.
data analytics certificate.
first and foremost, there's a certain level to where
Okay,
if you're
if you
strong
want to be really stupid about it, you could say Ino scales above Shikamaru, and Shikamaru was able to react to 10-10, who's weighted elite level.
Okay.
So you can get her to like say she's like weightlessly because of it.
He's was on him like in the when she does like a Byakugan mind transfer. He's like, you ain't rank it off me, and instantly flexes out of it. Now, while that's impressive, I can't necessarily see DOSU being that much stronger than her to where he would do this. The bigger reason like it's not as effective against faster combatants is because the mind transfer moves in a direct path. And the problem is it's slow too. So she basically kind of has to be able to perceive and move and like shoot the mind transfer at a speed comparable to her opponent, which Sakura was, right? But Dosu is more than likely a speed tier above Sakura at this point.
Wait,
maybe you could argue Sakura.
They are aware that
the speed gap.
He's aware that never does that, right? Like that's why they have the Shikucho, because she's never supposed to just do it.
Yeah.
Too risky.
She kind of did like a comparable feet flickers, pretty much put all the chakra on her feet to boost her speed. But I'll say this, the fact that Ino didn't lead with this in the fight with Sakura and that Dosu has intel on it, I think is all you need to say. But I just kind of wanted to talk about the mind transfer stuff because a lot of people just never bring this stuff up or like realize the idea behind it. It's very niche and it just doesn't work on people who have definitive stat advantage, as it's built on Ino's own perception capabilities and how fast she can actually shoot it out. Both these things are key, and I just don't think both these things are up to par with Dosu, especially off the Sakura stuff. Coupled with the fact that Dosu has intel on this exact technique. Granted, Ino has intel on Dosu as well, but like, what is she gonna do? Like, what countermeasures does she have? So again, I don't even think mind transfer is as likely as she doesn't lead with this, so I think probably gets wiped as well. Next up, we have Shikamaru versus Dosu. This one's really interesting to me because both combatants pretty much have complete intel on one another. I do believe Shikamaru is more of a counter matchup for Dosu starting off because he plays an entirely ranged game, whereas Dosu's obviously.
Here's the problem with Shikamaru: his body speed's ass at this point, but his shadow possession's really fast. His jutsu activation, that shit's pretty clutch, and that would be the only thing that pressured Dosu. So then it just comes to a question: do you think Shikamaru is going to be able to capture Dosu with his shadow possession? I'd say yes. Consistency and what he normally does, I don't see why he wouldn't be able to do it. That's just me.
I have no problem with it.
I could actually see Shikamaru actually pulling the W. That's only because of shadow possession. Like that shit's just really fast. You know what I mean? Now,
Shikamaru's also really smart. Even if he can't do it, I think he'd be able to find out something like he did with Kamari.
Now, to be fair, if the shadow possession isn't already out, and we do know he has to activate it in order to do it, and if Dosu is above him in speed, then he would technically just get hit before he can even do it. So if that's the case, then Dosu would technically still get it. But if we're talking about in character, Dosu doesn't really fight like that. He's kind of arrogant, So he'll normally see his opponent talk some shit, right, or whatever, or he's gonna feel his opponent out, right? He doesn't just immediately go all out and whatever. So meaning if that happens, Shikamaru would be able to do shadow possession. I don't see why he wouldn't be able to. And then at that point, it's good because we literally see it in the fight when Shikacho comes out, he's literally talking whatever. He's like, oh, more roaches are coming out, whatever, blah blah. He's not like immediately going for the kill, whatever. And then Shikamaru immediately does shadow possession, and he didn't realize, and bam, he gets caught in it, because he was over here talking and it's just not really fully focused and shit. So like he's not always bloodlusted. So that's the problem. If it's in character, Shikamaru I think takes it, but if it's bloodlusted, then I would be on Dosu's side. So
well, even if let's say Dosu hits him with the sound wave, I still think Shikamaru would be able to get him with shadow possession because he was able to hit Ken with it even when he was completely off balance. Ken was able to avoid getting hit sooner because he doesn't go in for close range, but I think Dosu would. I think when he does, Shikamaru's just going to go, okay, he's in close, so I just need to expand the shadow possession slightly.
Yeah, no, I get what you're saying.
But I still think he'd be able to hit him.
Yeah. No, I get what you're saying. That's all I'm getting at. I don't know. I think personally, if it's bloodlusted, Dosu just takes it. He just straight up beats the fuck out of him, or just knocks him out with the sound stuff or whatever. He just be too fast and just hits him, because Shikamaru, he has to at least do the hand sign and then channel the shadow possession jutsu. So, but that's kind of what I'm.
I think it's one hand sign.
Yeah, it's just one.
Shadow possession.
Yeah, it's just one. Yeah, he just has to move his hands and then bam, do it. But yeah, that's all I'm getting at. But yeah, that's all I'll say for that. That's an interesting one. I do agree with TG. But yeah, so I just, if it's in character, then Shikamaru. If it's bloodlusted, I would be on Dosu's side. That's just me though.
Close quarters. On top of this, it's already been established that Shikamaru's Shadow Possession does work on Dosu, as he's able to completely possess Dosu with no issues in their fight. The only reason he actually loses control over Dosu is because he can only maintain the Shadow Possession for 5 minutes.
That
He
was an
actually
off
was
guard
able
moment though, bro. To be fair, come on. What's going? Because we even see this fucking fodder chick who's to be fair, we really don't. Like, she's either Sakura level or maybe above, but, you know, it's kind of hard. We don't really know, because after she initially speed blitzes Sakura, when Sakura's just sitting on the ground, Sakura cuts her hair, whatever, and then she doesn't do anything after that. You know what I mean? Like, if she was a tier above, she would probably still continue to beat her up, but that doesn't happen. I would have to go back to the fight to see if she even attempts to try again, but I do know Zaku tries to, like, beat her ass, and then they're going, like, blow for blow with each other, basically. But yeah, like...
She was too traumatized at the idea.
Literally. All I will say, I'm pretty sure we would all agree Dozu's above Kin. So, you know, if Kin is able to run around and avoid the Shadow Possession to a certain regard, again, I don't see why Dozu wouldn't be able to replicate the same. I feel like that's a little weird, but yeah.
Completely hold Dosu in place. And even though Dosu isn't concerned with the Shadow, I do think it is noteworthy that Shikamaru's Shadow Possession is fast enough to actually intercept Dosu's movement. So, for example, right, if Dosu were so fast...
Yeah, so, okay, so he shows what happened. Yeah, that's what it was. He was going after Choji to go attack him, and then Shikamaru does the Shadow Possession and gets his ass. Yeah. So, yeah, he wasn't even focused on Shikamaru.
He also didn't know about it.
He didn't know about it, yeah. Yep. So, yeah, so I was right. It was off guard, yeah.
Much leapt like right past the Shadow Possession, or like the Shadow Possession would just not be able to catch up. Although again, like the flip side of this is you could maybe say like Shikamaru intercepted him and like put the Shadow Possession before him. The whole way the exchange is framed, Dosu's actually moving before Shikamaru initiates the Shadow Possession. So if you kind of look at it like that, you could just say maybe the Shadow Possession speed is comparable to Dosu's own. So even if he's able to evade it, Shikamaru definitely has some options. I also do think the matchup favors him from an, you know, intellect standpoint.
Absolutely.
As again, he's just shown far better intelligence feats than
Dosu.
Dosu.
If he whips out the Shadow Possession, I think Dozu's done. If that's out, he's done. There's no way he's going to be on defense the whole time, and eventually it's only a matter of time, and Shikamaru always wins that chess game, bro. Every time, so...
You know, I was talking about Dosu's intellect before, but I will say there is a degree where... You know, he's not on Shikamaru's level. He's not beating Tamari and then planning 200 moves past that point. He's just not. Like, and the fact that you're giving Shikamaru all the intel on Dosu in this encounter, I think is just telling.
Even
enough,
without intel, he
speaking.
wins
I think
if he has Shadow Possession.
Point. So Dosu could definitely close the gap and potentially get a W.
With the Disney bundle, there's something for
Oh,
everyone.
I'm just saying they should just go with the 100 IQ moves that Loco and them came up with. And just stab Shikamaru, and then he couldn't use them.
That shit was crazy, bro. I'll tell you, Loco, shit.
I will say the fact that he was able to take down Kin,
to counter combo, you just stab.
he had zero intel on, and even if you want to go by the anime, Kin actually has some minor genjutsu off her needles. Just gives me the vibe that Shikamaru would be able to take a W here. So on top of his, in my opinion, Shadow Possession being comparable stat-wise, I think he has the intellect and prep to pretty much take a W more than Dosu does against him. Bro's Batman with the intel. Kishimoto threw in Chemical X when making the character of Shikamaru. I don't know what to tell you. So while it's possible,
Shikamaru's kind of a dumb
Oh yeah, no, in comparison to Batman, absolutely.
In this encounter.
I'd say
Next
the
up, we
closest
have
to
Shino.
fucking Batman would be Yamato and
Shino.
Boruto. That motherfucker is ridiculous.
Look, I'm just saying, this man had weeks to plan out how to beat an immortal, and his plan was big hole.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna lie. I think this is a very interesting matchup.
Wait, between who?
But I think
Shino.
Shino
Okay.
obliterates them.
I'll say this.
Shino wins.
I would agree Shino as well, because range, bugs, you name it. I just don't think he's gonna be able to get in close up to Shino. That's the problem. Shino would just have distance, whatever, and then he's good. The bugs can keep him at bay. Yeah, I'm sorry, but Shino's a hard.
They're just standing there having a stare down.
Shino's a hard counter.
And then Bug just bites them.
Literally, like Shino's a hard counter. I'm not gonna lie. He's also very smart. Like, he's actually underrated in intelligence when strategized, whatever you name it. And he's blatantly at least shown to be on Conqueror's level, which Conqueror would be like compatible to Tamari basically. So overall, like the speed scaling, you name it, like weight elite level, like at least we can confer bare minimum, right? They would be in that regard. So like the speed, they're in the same level, whatever, right? You know, and then with the bugs are even more faster than Shino. I'm sorry, my money's on Shino. You know what I mean? Like if you know, if you think that, unless you think the sound can counter the bugs, you know, but you know, so.
I mean, it could counter the bugs for a moment, but you can't counter when he doesn't know it's there. And bugs get tiny.
Yeah. So that's the problem. And then Zaku, he doesn't scale to Zaku. That's a misconception. Some people actually think that he was bullying Zaku the whole fucking time. If you actually analyze the fight, he wasn't even trying. So,
for a couple reasons. Now, not only does DOSU not, you know, there's no intel really here. And, you know, DOSU's techniques could hypothetically be effective on Shino, unless you make a weird argument like the bugs, for whatever reason, like clog up his ears or something to that degree. I talked about this in my tuning exam free-for-all video. I highly recommend checking that out. That came out great. But there's a good chance that Shino would actually be able to clog up DOSU's Echo Drill, which is his main...
That is true, too.
I want to give DOSU more, but he does not display any more offensive capabilities aside from his Echo Drill. He probably does have other jutsu, we just haven't seen it, or that's probably like his main specialty. I mean, it's a C-rank jutsu, so it's not even that crazy by like comparison, but still. And if he does end up clogging it with bugs, just like he does the holes on Zaku's arms, that's kind of it. And Shino's bugs have stupid like speed feats. Zaku himself doesn't even notice them all creeping up behind him. Yeah, if DOSU comes in, he could pull a W, but I just don't see it. There's even a chance that bugs could actually work as somewhat earplugs for Shino, as when Zaku just blows apart, like blows Shino back. He basically, oh, bro, that sentence could have gotten bad real quick, my fault. But essentially, when he does like, yo, I don't want to use the word blow anymore. Hold up. When he hits Shino with this sound-based attack, Shino does have bugs protruding out of his skin, like giving the idea that he has like a layer of durability under his skin that kind of allows him to tank some attacks that maybe, you know, he regularly wouldn't be able to. So you can even make a case like the bugs actually go inside his ear and somewhat mitigate the effects that DOSU inflicts with his Echo Drill. So on top of him pretty much hard countering DOSU, there's actually a chance DOSU's own win con might not be effective. But again, that could see I'd be more of a reach. I think the main thing is that he could basically clog up the Echo Drill and make it so that sound just wouldn't go through as fluently as just like a normal flute or something to that degree. But if he clogs the gauntlet, that's pretty much it. Sound's just not going to go through. And again, the issue is that Shino gets close. That's like the end of the fight, because that's pretty much always when Shino enacts his win condition, is whenever he gets close. Same thing with Conqueror. When he hits him with the little pump fake punch, he ends up placing a female Conqueror and all the bugs swarm. So I don't think anything really changes against DOSU, but I do think it's an interesting matchup. But again, I think Shino takes it pretty confidently.
Next up, we have Hinata.
Now, this kind of depends on a couple things. First, you kind of have to assume Naruto.
Hinata knows.
Ladies and gentlemen, please stay tuned as we attempt to...
Fuck you, Ed!
That's my answer. Hinata knows.
Wait, do you actually think that or no? Okay.
Kind of. But she's able to fight off Neji.
I said confidence amp. What the fuck am I talking about? But like, you know, Neji's talking crazy. Like Neji was talking trifling. He's talking insane. Like I forgot how disrespectful part 1 Neji was with his dialogue. Bro's a menace, an absolute animal, smoke demon. So you kind of have to assume that DOSU kind of shit talks Hinata, because if she comes into this fight without the confidence, she's just gonna lose blatantly. And the problem with Hinata too is that she's very
I gotta respond to that real quick, sorry.
Neji fight, because
so it's true that she had a confidence amp towards the end of the fight, but a lot of people tend to forget that she also was not wanting to fight because they were related.
Yeah, that's true, yeah. Because the whole history and shit, yeah.
So people tend to ignore that fact. So I don't think she wants. She's definitely not somebody who do a whole lot of fighting. So there's nothing to say that she doesn't have like a normal amount of confidence, like fighting in a normal.
Yeah. Like I'll say this: mentally, Hinata is at least relative to Neji, but she's not equal to him, and she's not above, obviously either. Neji was blatantly emphasized to be above her, blatantly. So we have no idea of her relativity, where exactly that even fucking scales. You know what I mean? So at the end of the day, what I will say for this particular matchup with DOSU, I would at least say it is definitely above someone like DOSU. Okay? Even being relative to Neji is pretty impressive, but again, we have no idea where that is. That could be weighted. That could be weightlessly, first gately. We have no fucking idea. You know what I mean? So at the end of the day, you know, at that, you know.
I'd put her around weightlessly.
Yeah, like you could say at least above weightlessly, right? Maybe that, you know.
I wouldn't say above. I would say like relative to it, just because I do think that because Naruto was watching, which also kind of helped her out as well. But you got to remember that she's being trained by the Hyuga. Like they're like hardcore when it comes.
Exactly. You know what I mean? So that's kind of what you're working with. You know, it is what it is. Now, if it's her without a mental amp, we have no fucking idea where she scales. Absolutely no idea whatsoever. So, like, you know, but...
Oh, no, I'm saying her without the mental amp would scale weightless.
Oh, okay. That's fair, you know. But like, all I will say with that is, like, we, you know, there's really... We just don't know, you know what I mean? But, like, it's really hard to gauge. Like, I think the only way you can really gauge Hinata was, like, during the filler stuff and during Part 1 arc. But that's, like, after the retrieval arc, though. That's the only problem. So,
yeah.
But, yeah, so, like... At the end of the day, you know, who knows? I would say either she's weightedly level or weightlessly level without the amp, maybe. But again, we just have no really way to confirm. If like Kishimoto's writing it and showing it, maybe should be it'd be weighted bare minimum or maybe a weightless. Who knows, right? But with this, again,
we do know that Shino and Kiba do think that she is competent, a competent fighter, as long as she like puts in like. As long as she believes that she's able to fight.
Yeah, exactly.
So I think that's enough to prove that at least she's relative to them. With Kiba, that's not impressive, but when it comes to Shino, that's impressive.
Exactly. You know, so and that's basically all we're getting at. Hinata's her issue is it's her mental. That's what basically fluctuates her power. You know, if she's not confident, whatever, or you know what I mean, and she's trying whatever, she's not. It's like she's basically not able to use her full potential and extent to what she actually could be able to do. But if she's able to overcome that mental obstacle course and, you know, and be either mentally amped or confident or whatever, she's now able to go pretty in high regards, right? You know, so again, like, you know, that's the problem. So like, again, if like, let's say she's not confident or whatever, for all we know, she could be weightedly level. Who knows, right? You know, but let's say if she is confident or at least being normal, the stats are there, right? And all that's fine, then she's could at least be weightlessly level or maybe even above, like first gate, you know? So... But that's kind of what you work. I will say this, you know, like there's a lot of vagueness with it, but at the end of the day, Hinata is pretty underrated. You know, I think she's strong.
Neji was definitively above her. Like even when she's contending with him, it's revealed that he had like from the beginning blocked her Tenketsu. So
yeah, one thing I didn't realize,
like,
I just saw like Sage at Thick Calves in voice chat with Loco. And I was like, oh, hell no, bro. I was like, oh, hell no, bro. Like, I'm sorry, but, like, the way it is, the moment Loco even got any interaction with Noodles, that's immediately a red flag. I don't give a fuck. That weird circle, Surfbone, Noodles, and Seth, hell no. Like, if anybody's in association with all that, I'm gone. Like, that's just me personally. So, bro,
I thought TG was in association with Noodles.
No. Like, he doesn't have, like, any problems or, like, drama or whatever, blah, blah, but he doesn't interact with them or anything like that. So, and he's, like, really, really close.
Last I checked, he was in his server.
Yeah,
I could be wrong.
I don't know, but...
Because that doesn't mean anything.
Yeah, but all I do know is he's in close relation to Swag and everything and whatnot, and they don't fuck with that circle at all. Like, they're just gone, whatever, and that's it. So, Swag even stopped messing with even Clyde because of that. Because Clyde went back to Noodles and Seth and you name it. So, Noodles is basically outcast the moment he went back in association with Seth. And I'm on the same boat. Like, that's just some weird shit, you know? So, but that's just kind of where I'm at, so it is what it is. But fucking, I saw that, I was like, nope, and I immediately left the server. Like, I'm not dealing with that shit. So...
with him, he still was able to implement this and was that far above her. This makes it very difficult to gauge Hinata's strength in the fight. I also do think DOSU's attacks would be... I mean, you could argue that her eyes would be able to see through it, just kind of like Neji's would. But it's hard, man. Like, Hinata's so weird to talk about because you have to arbitrarily discuss how much Neji's necessarily sandbagging in that fight. I will say her win con is just as effective against... It's also not like Hinata has the 64 palms, so she has to kind of... Like, she has to pretty much form the chakra in her palm and just damage the internal organs, which, I mean, is still pretty effective. But again, she's just not on Neji's level. Like, consistently, Neji's just shown to be above her until maybe arguably like late Shippuden, the last, all that stuff. So I would say, honestly, it depends how much of like Naruto interferes, because Naruto's like cheering her on.
He's not alive.
That is kind of provocated by Neji's like dialogue towards her. So there is a little bit of that. she pretty much has a similar win condition to Neji. Byakugan seeing through Dosu's attacks, possibly like where he's gathering the chakra. That's all fine. I just think she's going to struggle a lot more with Neji, just because it's a lot more vague where she is. But if you do take her Neji performance, you could make a valid case for her. I might lean towards Dosu in this encounter, just because even if she does, you know, tag his internal organ, once he's close enough to her, that's all he really needs. And it's tougher for her speed point. Like, she's not like Neji. She doesn't have those speed capabilities. So it's harder for me to give her that slide like I gave to Neji. So I think this one could be a little debatable.
She just does what Himawari did to
as well as how
Naruto.
maybe she approaches this fight. It's just weird. But I generally lean towards Dosu, as a couple factors kind of had to be in place for Hinata to perform well against the Neji, who we don't even know how much he was sandbagging and is shown just definitively above her by miles. So debatable, a little bit lean on Dosu. In character, Hinata would more than likely, you know, she might withdraw in this situation, or just the Proctor would stop the match, just kind of like the original fight. So I would probably put it like that. Next up, we have Kiba. Now, Kiba's very interesting because Dosu essentially has two targets to worry about in this fight, Akamaru, and in character, Kiba's probably going to lead with what he led with against Naruto, the ninja art of beast mimicry, and go on all fours in an attempt to rush down Dosu. I don't think this would obviously be as effective as it was on Naruto, because he just kind of pushes Naruto down. It might actually work in Dosu's favor. He's definitely, it kind of depends on how he looks at it. He pretty much is going to need to lead with Akamaru, who is also pretty susceptible to Dosu's attacks.
The problem with fucking Kiba is, where does he even scale? That's the problem. We know he's above a nerfed Naruto, but Naruto's at least relative, and that's not good at all in speed. I think Dosu still has a pretty good speed advantage against Kiba. Like, I'm just saying.
I'm gonna say, I do think there's a chance that Kiba could win. The only reason why I'm saying that is if he does that Fang over Fang, we do know that if he does that, that should theoretically be able to create enough wind pressure around him so that the sound wouldn't be able to.
Gotcha. I see what you're getting at, yeah. I don't know, I just think for Kiba to struggle...
And if he makes the mistake of...
No, you're good, bro. For Kiba to struggle against this version of Naruto, I think that's just says enough, in my opinion. He wasn't really dominating him until he got his amp from the pills. But even then, like, Naruto was still at least able to be relative, you know? So, I don't know, like, the speed is just, that's where it kind of gets for me, where I think Dozu just dominates before he can even get that far. Now, if Kiba starts in that form, it's a little bit interesting, but, you know, even then, still, like, I just feel like we just don't have too much to gauge with it. That's the only thing. But I get what you're saying, too, though.
I will say, I do think Kiba was being stupid, even outside like what he normally would, because Naruto is known within the Leaf Village to kind of be a failure.
Gotcha. No, I feel you.
So I don't think he was taking Naruto serious, and we already know that he was playing around throughout that fight.
Yeah, no, I get you, bro. Absolutely. But let me continue this going.
It does depend if he also, when he takes the red pill as well, because if he backs up, like maybe Akamaru gets hit by that sound-based attack, it'll maybe feed Akamaru the red pill if Akamaru's not incapacitated. And the problem with red pill Akamaru and Kiba is when they both, you know, she pretty much transforms into Kiba and they pretty much double up and do Fang over Fang. My problem with Dosu in this encounter is that Fang over Fang, because of how loud it is, might actually just block out any noise that Dosu attempts to create with his Echo Drill, pretty much making his win con kind of useless against Kiba. They might just not be able to hear it due to the spinning and them clashing against one another. So if they do kind of keep Dosu in that loop, it also might be pretty questionable. Dosu's best asset in this fight is attempting to take Kiba out early on before he can really enact this, because I think once Fang over Fang comes into play, it's not like Naruto where he's going to be able to swap in with Akamaru or anything like that. Nah, he's kind of forced to just straight up like tag these dudes. But at the same time, Dosu's win con does work on Akamaru and Kiba. So if he starts it off and gets close to one of them, it pretty much makes it that Fang over Fang just doesn't have any possibility as well. So you can maybe argue that. I think this fight is really interesting and could kind of go a number of ways. I might lean towards Kiba, but I think Dosu does have a pretty good shot early on. It's just kind of like, if they're still conscious after getting hit by a sound-based attack, you could maybe say they just take the red pill and kind of recover or double their chakra reserves to combat Dosu. So I think this one also is somewhat debatable. I might lean towards Kiba, but I think, you know, it's just as likely for Dosu to take a W. And we have seen
Kiba's
I wasn't
expecting him to agree.
And how he kind of falters under pressure, as when he mistakes Akamaru's smell for Naruto. So I think there is some potential here. Next up, we have Tamari. I think Tamari beats DOSU pretty handily. Tamari's fan is a pretty big counter to sound-based attacks. We kind of saw this in her fight with Tsuyu. So not only is DOSU going to have nowhere to run or hide, unlike the next round of the tuning exams, he's just blatantly going to get blown away. And it's not like his sound-based attacks are really going to have any effect. Tamari's more of a hard counter to him. So he doesn't really have too much there. On top of this, his stats shouldn't be that crazy, especially since we've seen Tamari just block attacks from weighted Lee, the same weighted Lee who is very problematic for DOSU. Now, not to overstretch the feat, I'm just saying I don't think he's going to rush her down or anything like that. Like, his speed's that crazy. So, I definitely lean to Tamari in this matchup. She pretty much hard counters his Echo Drill that he has to get very close to. So, nothing too much he can do in this situation. So, I think Tamari takes it pretty handily. Next up is Konkoro. Now, Konkoro's interesting because in his fight in the tuning exams, like the first round, he basically is hiding in the bandages and having Crow fight. So it's kind of like, okay, if DOSU does his Echo Drill, is Konkoro going to like hear that beyond the bandages? Because I can see a situation, right? This is honestly how I see this fight playing out. DOSU runs at Konkoro, kind of disrupts Crow's senses, and once he tries to like inject the sound like with his chakra into Crow's ear, it's not going to work. And I think Crow just grabs him, and that's kind of the match. That's honestly the way I see it. I see it kind of going very similar to Konkoro's first round matchup because no one was able to tell Crow was taking the form of Konkoro. Even in the cheating part of like the the written test and the tuning exams, no one noticed that Proctor was Crow as well. So Crow's detection's pretty crazy. Pretty much how this fight's gonna go is pretty much how I think it will go. With
Wait, I'm sorry. Konkoro had Crow in the written exams.
Yeah.
No, yeah.
What's it called? Yeah, he had that. He was manipulating the Crow but made him look like Konkoro the whole time, and then outplayed him.
Like Crow's gonna drop Konkoro. Konkoro's gonna be in the bandages, not really gonna be audible to the sound attacks, as it seems they're very like close range. Like you kind of have to be near the gauntlet, or DOSU swipes themselves to actually hear it. It's not
low key. Konkoro's actually kind of a hard counter. DOSU.
Konkoro's a hard counter.
Yeah, like I'm sorry, but that puppet should be hilarious. Like the way, just imagine that, like DOSU charges up whatever you name it, hits him with the sound. He's like, "You're done," and then Konkoro's like, "Are you sure?" And he's like, "Huh?" He's like, "Why is sound not working against him? Is his ears plugged? Is it the earwax?"
You know what I'm curious about now? Yeah. Suddenly. How do these ninjas fight against someone who's deaf?
Bruh, literally. Wouldn't do shit.
In which case,
joke's on you. I was born without hearing.
Really gonna be able to
counter inevitably.
And even if, for whatever reason, DOSU did discover this, Konkoro can play a ranged game with poison Crow attacks. He has a lot of options like poison bombs, poison-coated kunai, all this pretty much crazy stuff. And you may have arguments like DOSU maybe repel it and stuff like that, but DOSU's worst matchup is against these long-range fighters. And I do think the immediate effect here is pretty much what I described and what happened with Konkoro on the original timeline. So I think Konkoro actually takes a W here. Last up, we have Gaara for the Sand Trio, and I mean, come on. Like, again, like, obviously, like, DOSU, tried Gaara and got folded by semi-transformed Gaara, but, I mean, listen, Gaara was also blocking weighted Lee, and weighted Lee is pretty much faster than DOSU, so with that in mind, like, DOSU's not going to get close to Gaara. He's not going to be able to enact his Echo Drill. It's just pretty clear cut. So I feel like that one should not require too much explanation as well. For any reason, if Gaara does struggle, he can quite literally just clog DOSU's Echo Drill with sand and just make it so there's going to be no sound because it's filled with sand. So, again, like, his only win con could just be destroyed pretty easily. Gaara might just sand coffin the Echo Drill itself and just break it apart. So no real issues for these fighters here. Bonus round is against Naruto and Sasuke in the next round of the tuning exams. Against Sasuke, base Sasuke just absolutely demolishes DOSU with his speed. It's going to be, he's as fast as weightlessly, which is definitely faster than DOSU at this point. And his punches are hard enough, or like hard hitting enough to pretty much fatigue Gaara, even with his sand armor. So that's pretty much all you need to say. Like, his punches are just going to beat down DOSU in pretty much every capacity. Maybe he catches Sasuke lacking, but I don't think so. I don't think Shidori's necessarily. This also isn't talking about if Sasuke activates the Sharingan to augment his senses. I think the speed disparity just becomes a bit too apparent there for DOSU to really overcome it. So
I agree.
Again,
that's Sasuke. He would beat the fuck out of him. Yeah.
It sounds like
possible for
Dosu's real weakness
I don't
is
think it's
anyone
like-
who can fight back.
So I think Sasuke pretty much murders in the next stage of the Chunin exams. Next up, we have Naruto. I think Naruto is very similar. Now, Naruto, obviously, you know, he has gone through... he's had his seal untightened, which is essentially going to make his chakra control a lot better. He's also learned how to put himself in positions to use Kurama's chakra a lot more effectively. Now,
He just
I think
drops
if he can
Gamabunta.
force Neji, who was, by the way, training post this round of the Chunin exams, if he can force Neji into situations to where Neji has to use rotation with his shadow clones, I think he would be able to take down Dosu, honestly speaking. He would just keep his distance.
So he does
Dosu
agree
wouldn't be able
that
to discern
Naruto
which
wins
is the
too,
real
okay.
Naruto, as even the Byakugan couldn't at that point. He would definitely be able to
I'm
catch
telling you,
Dosu
Dosu's
black
weakness is
multiple
anyone
times.
who's
Neji
able to
thinks he's
throw
not
them.
the real Naruto, and Naruto pretty much is hiding in a different clone area. So with that in mind, I think there's a very high chance Dosu would probably go for one of the clones and echo drill it, and then pretty much end up getting comboed at that point. As that Naruto is just stronger, not having this restriction on him. I don't even think QB Chakra is necessary at this point, but that's overkill. That's just extreme overkill. So you could even make the case like the Echo Drill might not even be able to permanently put down that Naruto. But aside from that, you know, I do lean towards Naruto. I think he's just gonna finesse Dosu with his quick thinking and clone maneuverability. As his Naruto's intellect
drops a sexy
with shadow
jutsu.
clones
Yeah,
in
exactly.
combat
And then
is
just decks him in the
outstanding.
face.
It beats the third.
Something special. He's pretty much able to fool people on a consistent basis with visual prowess, which is just bruh. Like, what do you need to say to that? So, yeah, I think Naruto with clone maneuverability does take a W here. But that's the video. Hopefully you guys enjoyed. I sure did. Let me know down below what's your thoughts on Dosu, which fights you agreed with, disagreed
Alright,
with.
not too bad. I like the. Oh, I already did like the video. What's it called? Pretty good, solid video from TG. We really didn't have to pause that much. I know it's a little bit more lengthy than it should have been, but we really didn't have to pause. I really expect nothing less from TG. He's normally on it. He normally has it 9 out of 10 times. So shout out to Thundergod if you guys don't know him. Make sure to check him out. Give him all the love and support. You guys know the vibes as always. If you guys enjoyed this reaction, make sure to leave a like as well. Comment your thoughts down below. Subscribe for more content. Subscribe to the channel. And as always, guys, I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye bye now.